Welcome back. Let's talk about a cognitive skill that can help you improve in solving problems and identifying patterns and discovering those literal and metaphorical treasure hunts. And what I want to talk about is the concept of difficulty and the research that's associated with it. So one thing that we know from the research is that if you are studying or you're trying to understand something, you're trying to grasp something, and it's incredibly easy, it actually decreases your ability to learn it. You have to make things harder in order to get the most out of it in order to learn. So adding some challenge and some difficulty can assist. It's interesting, for example, that, and challenge varies, right? It's relative to the individual, depends upon your level of expertise. So, for example, there have been studies to show that if you are an incredibly gifted mathematician, and then another person can't really get past even basic algebra. They're really struggling with basic algebraic concepts. And you put a algebra level problem or a really introductory problem in front of someone that understands really complex math. If you go too slow and you make it too simple, it can actually make it harder for the expert. Now, sometimes they can just do it in their head because they're so good, but actually too much simplicity can make it harder for a master because they're so used to moving faster. And then obviously we know the other part, that if you go too fast or it's too complex for a novice, that they're not going to get it. So there's a sweet spot when it comes to challenge, but challenge is our friend. Difficulty is our friend when it comes to solving things. So when you are trying to solve a puzzle or something like that, and it's feeling too easy, well, sometimes that's not a good sign. So here are 5 things that you can do to train yourself with challenges to get better at identifying things that other people miss, solving problems, discovering those literal and metaphorical treasures. First one is to engage in the practice of what we call self-testing. So this is one that I think is really interesting. Say you're reading something and you decide, well, you really want to understand it well, so you are going to just read it over and over again. You'll read it and then reread it and then reread it. That is how a novice studies, and it doesn't actually create the same results as another strategy. Those who are really good at extracting a lot of meaning, they engage in, sometimes it's in their head, it's an informal thing, but they do it, and it's what we call self-testing, is they're essentially kind of quizzing themselves on the information. They're giving themselves kind of little tests and quizzes about the information. Sometimes they do that, take notes, and then they give themselves quizzes about the notes or other things. Sometimes they use note cards to kind of quiz themselves. But the idea is that you're creating a kind of challenge. This is why games and play are so powerful. We're actually designed, our brains work better through gameplay to learn new things and to solve problems. And so when you're trying to understand, maybe you're one of the people that is on my channel because of the John Collins Black, There's Treasure Inside Treasure Hunt. And I've seen people post and say, I've read the book 10 times. Well, that's fine. You've read the book 10 times, but how have you read the book? And if you read the book and you're just kind of reading it and rereading it and rereading it, you may not be noticing much more the next time. The idea is that you want to get yourself thinking more deeply about it. So that's where you do the self-testing and quizzing yourself and so forth. So that's one that's really good. The second thing is if you want to add a level of difficulty in order to help you retain things, learn things, see things differently, vary the topics, vary the context. You can, so instead of just repeating the same thing over and over and over again, do something a little bit different with it. I've even found that reading something electronically versus reading it in paper is different. Or when I read something, I decide to use a highlighter one time through, and then I'm going to take some notes, and I'm going to organize, or I'm going to have a list of questions that I ask a bit differently each time. And each time that you go to it, you're mixing it up. It's the same content that you're dealing with, but you're going to deal with it from a different angle. And I even read things backwards sometimes, depending upon the kind of content I'm reading. I'll read the paragraphs in reverse in a given chapter to see if I notice something a little bit differently. So mix it up, change something about how you approach it after your first time or two, and you have the basics down, and then you'll allow yourself to start to notice things, see things that you would have missed otherwise. Third one is spacing, time. So oftentimes people think that they just want to kind of cram, and and understand everything in a really short period of time. And so they'll read something and they'll reread it again. They'll think about it, or even when you're trying to memorize something, you just sort of repeat it over and over and over again. But we find the research is pretty clear that spacing is very, very powerful. So yes, you can work through and repeat something, but then give yourself a little bit of a break and then come back to it. You will have forgotten some, so you're going to have to refresh your memory, and then you learn it again, and then you do a little bit of spacing, and you extend the spacing over time. And eventually, you're going to deepen your capacity to remember things, to remember certain patterns. And when you remember things, memorization people downplay, but it's useful because you can keep all those thoughts in your head. It's like having multiple things out on your desk at the same time. You can see and notice them when they're fresh in your mind that way. So practice with spacing. A fourth one is to add different kinds of constraints. So add different rules. Oftentimes people do this with a time limit. So I'm going to give myself a fixed time limit to try to get this done. It adds a little bit of intensity, a little bit of stress, and it can work. Or even if you're trying to look at things, I know this sounds a little bit odd, say I'm going to look at it and I'm going to cover one eye and try looking and observing in the room, and then I'm going to try the other eye. Or I'm going to walk backwards around the room to observe. Don't trip. But the point is add some kind of constraint that makes it a little bit harder. I know that people have even done things when you're trying to solve puzzles. You have to use your opposite hand. If you're right-handed, use your left hand. Or if you use two hands to do it, usually try it with one hand. And this just stretches your brain. It's a good brain exercise, and it helps you to notice things a little bit differently. And then the last one that I would say is when we're talking about using challenge and difficulty, there is a limit to this. So I'm not talking about picking something that's just so incredibly far beyond your capacity right now. That's going to lead to despair and disappointment, and you'll probably get disengaged along the way. Also, just because it's so hard that it's not very rewarding to just work on something forever and ever and ever that you just don't have any chance of solving. It's so far behind you. It's like I've never learned or studied Russian at all, and I try to read Dostoevsky, one of his novels in Russian right away, and I'm just kind of keep staring at the page. That's a level of difficulty that's so far beyond. So one of the keys to using challenge and difficulty is to pick a level that stretches you but doesn't break you, if that makes sense. So pick something that should be a level of challenge, and then but you can accomplish it with effort. And then as you get more and more comfortable with that level, then you take it to another level, and then another level, and another level, and you kind of stack it up. These are skills that could be useful for all of us in all kinds of domains in our lives, with our hobbies and our interests. When you're trying to solve problems, you're trying to create those new opportunities, decision making, all sorts of domains and areas. So I hope you find it useful. I look forward to your comments.